Okay guys, well, we're playing with the Sheldon this afternoon, and we got a little paint on the headstock. It's still going to get another coat of paint, but I thought I'd show you what we've got, and I got a couple little things that I found interesting about it that I did not know about this. Now, this Sheldon is one with the bronze bushings instead of roller bearings, and I don't actually have an exploded view of this particular headstock with the bronze bushings in it. So I've learned a few things along the way. So let me bring you down here. This headstock's all going to come apart again, and I'm going to get another coat of paint on it because I've scarred it up and stuff messing with these bronze bushings. But I want to put a little guard in here. Let me bring you down so you can see it. Okay, hopefully this is going to focus up okay. I'm playing with a new lens today, so we're going to find out what kind of results we get with it, if it's better or worse, or what we got going on. I'm going to put probably just a little sheet metal or aluminum guard that fits up under here, tucks up under here, and goes down here. The reason being, this opens right up into the feet, down through the bed and down to the feet. Now this is where the belts run too, so it's a little bit worse on this end. So crap can kind of collect up there and get thrown up underneath there. It's the same way at the tailstock end. The bed's got an open web there and it goes right down to the feet, and there's no place for crap to go in there, so I'm probably going to put some sort of a little guard down there. So anyway, this headstock's going to come back off here again while I fit that up and get that going. Other than that, the headstock's probably about ready to go back into permanent position and be bolted down so I can start putting it back together. I said this had been worked on before, and when I tore it apart, the bushings for the bearings looked like they had been worked and were all blued up and everything. I believe that's true. They have been run a little bit that way, but they're exceptionally tight. We're going to have to put shim packs back underneath here, and I don't know how much shim. I'm going to run it a little bit and check alignment and everything first, but I know it's going to have to be shimmed, because if I just snug them down, and granted I've had the bushings out of here, but when it's just snugged down, why, it's exceptionally tight in here. So I'll run it a little bit, let it seat in, but then I know we're going to go back and put shims in here as long as alignment's right and everything. So let's go ahead and tear this headstock apart again and get this shaft out of here, because there's a couple things I want to do to it while we put it back together, and start putting it back together anyway. I haven't done anything to the spindle other than just wipe it down, and I've got a little oil in these bushings. Okay, so I just got these tight in here. Let's get this apart and get the spindle out of there so we can look at the stuff that I did find interesting on this. Now I've got Gitz oilers that'll go back in the top of these. I'm not going to put them back in. At least one of them was kind of boogered up. I'll probably replace them, so I'll have to order them. But we'll get these out of here first and get the spindle out of the way. And I've cleaned these up a little bit and just gotten all the bluing off of them and the gunk that was built up and everything, just so they look a little bit nicer. They'll take a little more work to get them seated in. But what I found interesting is in the bearing caps, what they've done, and they've done it on both of them here, where your Gitz oilers go in the top. We normally pack those with wool of some sort, just to hold a little oil so that it goes down in there. These have actually got a brass insert, brass, bronze, whatever it is, with a smaller hole to let it weep down in there. Now the back of these bearings have got their groove down across the center, and these pieces right here, and it's the same on both of them, there's where the grooves run down in the back, there's a cross hole drilled going this way to run with that. So when you oil them in there, not only does it put a little oil right down here, and this may get pushed up just a little bit more, I may relieve that so that it does weep all the way across. I'm sure I'll do that. I'll relieve those two bushings. One of these bushings, I think this one was sticking quite proud, so when they put the bearings in, or last time they were messing with it, they didn't get it aligned, because it's kind of a hassle to get them aligned in there so that it slides both through the bearing and then through the cap. So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll relieve these just a little bit on both sides before we bolt it back together. And then the oil also wicks down through both of these into the bottom half of the bearing, and it goes down, and there's another little insert at the bottom that's the exact same thing. And the bearings are made the same way. They're relieved all the way across on the back, and then they've got a relief groove so it will oil Well, I guess it doesn't on the bottom of the bushings. It's just got the galleys that run across this way, and then it can weep down in. Now, the thing that I really did find interesting, so normally like on the Atlas, you would just have your Gitz oiler on the top, you'd have your little bit of wool or felt, whatever, in the top to hold part of that oil, and it would just lubricate your spindle. This has also got, on both of these, it's got a little groove that runs down through here. It's got 2 holes in this insert, and it goes down in. So when they cast this, there's actually a recess or a cavity cast underneath in both sides of this. You can't see it on this side. On this side, there's a little boss on the outside that you can actually see. Let me just hand hold you over there and take a look at it. So right here, this is actually a hollow cavity back in behind there. So it's actually a little oil port down in there. And what I actually found, and I didn't find any in this one, but in this one, it actually had a piece of round felt in there or some sort of an absorbent material. So I really found that kind of unique. You know, you see different oil systems on some of the different lathes that have been produced and everything, but for the most part, the ones I've seen, just oil from the top. Whereas this actually holds oil in the reservoir that you've filled from the Gitz oiler in the top, basically. It's wicked down past the bearings, it's lubed the bearing on the way down, and then it's gone down, but your felt also comes back up through here and will rub on the bottom of that spindle, or be very close to the bottom of that spindle. I guess it would have to rub on it. And that'll actually oil your spinner from the bottom too. So I found that to be a really unique setup. So what I did, and I might as well fit them right now, is my little McMaster car. They offer felt, and they offer it in a couple of different weights. I think a 85% wool and a 95% wool. And it's not expensive. I think it's $3 something a foot. And both of them are pretty much the same cost. There's not a whole lot of difference. And then you have to buy 5 feet of it as the minimum. But I thought we'll just go ahead and put that back in there. Now I've cleaned those galleys out as much as I can, which is kind of a hassle because they were kind of gunky. But what I'm going to do on this one is I'm just going to run it down. I'm going to leave it a little bit proud so we got room to squish a little bit right in the top, and probably actually flare it at the top a little bit so it can retain in there. This one's got quite a bit of cavity, so we'll just shove quite a bit of that down in there and see what it does here. But that's not entirely true because it's got the smaller hole in the inserts, just like here. I thought I could push that all the way on down in there. And that will set right down in there, provide some upward pressure, and that will lube the spindle from the bottom. That one's the same way. Maybe we'll cut this. Come on. You know, maybe it's something that's not that unique at all, but I felt it was. And then we'll do the same thing before I put my Gitz oilers in the top, or when I put the Gitz oilers in the top, we'll just fill that the same way. Because yeah, that 1/4 inch will fit in there. 3/16 through the top might have been a little bit better, but you know, there's no sense in investing too awful much money in felt. I'll trim this down, or we'll do something with it to make it fill the space. Anyway, that's where we're at with this right now. Making progress with it. I've got one of the guards pretty well painted up. I'm going to touch it up too. And weather's starting to get cold, so we're spending more time in the shop, but it's also getting too cold to paint. So that's what we got going on. Like I say, this is as much a test of our new camera lens as anything else too. But there's a little more progress. So I still got to clean up the spindle and all the gearing and everything that goes back in here. I'm going to get one more coat of paint on it. and that will seal this pretty well. And then we'll get the headstock together and go on from there. Other things going on here in the shop. I've got the I got the shaper put back together enough to be running it. I've got a couple little shaper projects to do, so we may see a little bit of that running. And I do have the motor now for on the grown-up corn tool and cutter grinder. So we'll get back on working on the spindle and the castings for that. And see what we can get done there. So that's what I got going on in the shop. As the weather gets colder, winter gets here, we're going to spend more time in the shop. So anyway, hope you find something useful here. Comments, suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.